Hi everybody, Ian Bremmer here around your world in 180 seconds. I have your questions lined up on my phone as always, and we're ready to go. Number one, how will Iran respond to the attack on their consulate in Syria? An Israeli strike that killed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps leader of Iran in Syria. So on the one hand, Iranian citizen, high-level military official. On the other hand, not in Iran itself. In Syria, supporting proxy attacks. Clearly, the Iranians have been willing to push hard using the leverage they have in the so-called acts of resistance to engage in strikes against civilian shipping, against Western military capabilities, and against Israel. The Israelis are showing that they will attack wherever they think fit against them. But Iran has been reluctant to allow this to potentially lead to escalation in a direct war against Iran, which is why it's hard to imagine the Iranians engaging in direct strikes against Israel itself, ballistic missile strikes from Iran into Israel. So in other words, if you're going to hit Israel, you try to use proxies, or you try to hit Israelis outside of Israel itself. Israeli diplomatic facilities, for example. That's where I think you're more likely to see escalation. Escalation seems almost certain from the Iranians, but containing it also is something the Americans and Israel are trying very, very hard to do. And that continues to be the case, like when we saw the American servicemen killed in Jordan a couple months ago. What will Israel's invasion of Rafah look like? Assuming it happens. Remember, Netanyahu is saying that he has a date now for the strike, but he said that strikes were going to start once Ramadan began if there had not been an agreement on this 6-week hostages for temporary ceasefire deal. There wasn't such a deal. Netanyahu backed off. He could back off again. Also, the ultimatum from the United States is not about a war in Rafah. It is about a large-scale ground war without providing the ability for the Palestinians to evacuate and get humanitarian aid. Between those two positions, there's a lot of wiggle room, and one expects that the Israeli government, as they are thinking about those strikes, which I do believe will come, will try to claim domestically that they're doing what they need to clear up Hamas, and claim to the Americans that it is at a reduced cost of civilians, and it is engaged as in the spirit of working with the Americans and not requiring Biden to shut down offensive support for Israel. That's where we are. What's the fallout from Ecuador's raid of a Mexican embassy? Well, the first thing is President Noboa of Ecuador. This is political. This is a former vice president who was was sheltering in the Mexican embassy. You raid it, that is a breach of international law. But there is a largely security referendum, nationwide referendum coming up in just a couple weeks in Ecuador that Noboa wants to win. He is ahead. Looks like he will win it now. And this is going to be very popular on the ground. Guy had been, sort of on their wanted list for a long time. But they decided to take that action now because of the domestic politics. So it helps him. Probably doesn't kill the IMF, a deal that is presently being negotiated, but certainly suspends diplomatic relations between the two countries, and it's probably going to affect trade too. So you've alienated the Mexicans, but given the near-term political benefit for the Ecuadorian president, he thought that was a risk worth taking. Lots of impunity in this environment. It's one consistency that we see in our geopolitical recession, our GZERO world. That's it for me. I'll talk to y'all real soon.